hello. Good morrow,
Hi, good
everyone.
morrow.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello. Welcome. If you are new here, my name is EmilyHanhan. This is my dear friend Audra at home. We do these live streams every Thursday evening, alternating between our channels. All of the information for Audra's channel, social media, all of that good stuff is in the description box, as is mine. So you should go ahead and subscribe if you are not subscribed to both or either of us. And welcome everyone that's here live, everyone in the live chat, all of our lurkers, all of you wonderful people. If you're watching on replay, hi, hello, welcome. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Angie, for calling us the dynamic duo. I just want to say hello to everyone that's here right now. We see you. I see the Cecilies and Olivia, and Natalie and Sharon and Ani and Kalina, Bethany, so many people that
Zebra.
we adore you all and thank you all for being here. And I want to thank all of our patrons and YouTube members. If you're active with Audra or me or both of us, whatever, you're so appreciated. And our mods. Thank you to everyone who voluntarily keeps this space safe and kind and very thoughtful. And just to say, if a mod asks you about something or asks you to rephrase something, respect the mods. Okay.
Sorry. He's having trouble trying to settle himself on his pillow, so I'm just trying to make sure he gets comfy.
All good. Audra has a adorable pit bull named Bo, if you're also new. I feel like a lot of times you can hear things that no one else can. So when you were like chill, I was like, I don't even hear him.
Yeah, because I hear him. He was over here huffing, and he's just like. So
he will be okay. We'll be all good.
Oh, yeah, he will.
Yeah, of course. I love seeing everyone chatting already in the live chat, and welcome everyone. The kindness always makes me so happy. So speaking of the subject, so tonight, as obviously the title says, we're talking about parasocial brands, the problem with parasocial brands. And if you've been following along, the parasocial relationship conversation has been one we've been having in different ways and different kind of things recently. And it just kind of popped up as we were thinking about different things, how there are brands that use parasocial relationships, and usually they're using that to try to propel the brand. But as we've seen time and time again, that's not the smartest choice.
Backfires.
It often backfires, and we kind of just wanted to talk about that. And like, we have some notes and things, we've talked through things, but like, we're also here to, of course, always hear what everyone else has to say, like in terms of your feelings on this. Because I feel like sometimes it's always these like gut feelings where we're just like, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like so when I think of parasocial brand, actually, this is a good place to kind of start. Okay. I think of the brand, when I think of brands that use parasocial relationships, the like short and sweet of it to me is when a brand is named after yourself. So using that like persona who is you as a brand starts blurring the line between is this a brand or is this a person?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's it for me. What about you? Do you have like a definition?
I think it's that, but I also think it's brands who try to behave like a person. Like the brand may not be named after somebody, but the brand itself is trying to behave like your favorite influencer. You know, they're like, hi, I have memes, you know, like that kind of thing. And you're like, yeah, that's super weird. You're a brand, act like one.
Yeah, that's always funny where I'm like, you're not my friend. I mean, what it really comes down to is you're not my friend. You're trying to sell me shiny powder.
Yeah. And like I can't, because I think, and like I was saying to you, I think when we were talking offline, is there's a reason, like when people start talking about brands being bad or whatever. And then I've heard this on numerous occasions where people are like, well, we really need to start looking at these big brands. And I'm like, for what? Like, here's the reality. The big brands aren't trying to pretend they're anything other than a brand selling you stuff. Like Estee Lauder is under no illusion that they are an influencer.
Yeah.
They just sell you stuff. They have celebrities and whatnot, but Estee Lauder themselves, the brand, they're not out here on Twitter and Instagram making like witty posts and trying to like make you like them. Like, they're not like, oh, come be my friend. Like, they have zero illusions that they are an influencer, so they don't behave like one.
Yes. And when I say like naming it after yourself, I think it's more for me because like you have like Marc Jacobs Beauty, Estee Lauder was as a
Yeah.
person, but what I think about the worst example is Jeffree Star Cosmetics, but even KVD,
Mm-hmm.
Jaclyn Cosmetics. Like, these are all the all the ones where it's backfired. Just to clarify. Where it's not just, I think for me, it's not just naming it after a person, but it's when you, the person, are the model. You're in every release shoot. You're the
Mm-hmm.
face. You're not just the name, you're also the face of the brand. And even if you do
Mm-hmm.
have other models, you are the main person behind it. Whereas there are so many brands where I know who's behind the brand.
Yeah.
And yes, I think about them when I think about the brand, but they don't get mixed up in my brain. I'm not confused about what is what and who is who. And even if I was younger, I don't think I would get those two mixed up. Whereas a lot of brands, they blur those lines.
Yeah, because like we both like a lot of indie makeup, right? So like
Yeah.
Sandra from Adept and Deandra from Davina. Like I don't get the things confused. I
Yeah.
I don't think that Deandra is Davina and Davina is Deandra. Like it never
Although
occurs to me.
for me, they blur the lines. That's a situation where that actually falls into a different example that we'll talk
Mm,
about later. Um,
yeah.
but we might know the two sisters behind Cleona, or
Mm,
Sandra behind Adept, or Josh behind Drench Cosmetics,
yeah.
or but we don't get them mixed up. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
No, yeah, because like I think it's really important because if you when brands get parasocial like this, oh, that's the problem. Shit's crooked. So sorry. When brands get parasocial like that, the issue that they run into is like we've seen with KVD, we saw with Jeffree Star, we continue to see it, with Jaclyn Hills. What happens is when something goes wrong, right? Because the brand is not only named after you, like you were saying, you are also the face of the brand. You didn't just name it, like like if I have a brand and I name it Audra German last name, um, then it doesn't matter anymore. It's like very difficult to tell the difference between Audra German last name, the person, and the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it really depends on how you behave. I really do, because I think that even if it's named after your name, I think about the thing of when brands really feel like they're only making things for themselves.
Yeah.
So if you are Audra German last name, if that's your brand, and you very specifically, like I'm talking like you release foundations and you release 6 shades and they all suit you, Audra. And I wouldn't be mad about you of doing that, but like, or you release highlighters and they specifically all work just on you, or you only release one mascara because it's the only mascara you care about, and let's say it's super volumizing and you're like, fuck lengthening, I don't care. Like, there is a way that some brands kind of release products where I feel like it's not just I want this product on the market, it's like I don't care about anything besides what I specifically want for a makeup brand. And so
Mhm.
that's where I think, for me, that's where I feel like where it can happen, where I'm like, you're specifically building your brand to fit you, and no one else can see themselves in the brand.
Well, and I think it definitely, and I agree with you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also think that a huge difference is we're on YouTube, right? So a big, big difference is when influencers create a brand, too many influencers were already an influencer prior to creating a brand. And I feel like so many of them do not know how to separate influencer me from business me. And I think that that's a big
Yes.
problem with parasocial brands because like do I think that the lipstick gate would have been a big deal had it not been Jaclyn Hill? I think it would have been like sort of. I think people would have been like, "Oh, I found this shit," and it moved on with their lives, right?
If it had
But
been like ABH, if it had been like a popular mainstream brand,
yeah,
close, I think.
I think it would have like I think if Estee Lauder had a shit ton of lipsticks that they released and a few of them had some stuff in it, I don't think it would have got the kerfluffle that it did that Jaclyn Hill's did. Because Jaclyn Hill is an influencer. So everybody's eyes were on her to not only, release a badass product, but for like the launch to be smooth and everything to be great because
she
she's an
also
influencer.
she also blurred the lines between personal and business,
Exactly.
because she was an influencer, people were tweeting at her about it, and the very
Yeah.
first person, or one of the first people, I think of it as the first person that said something about the lipsticks, she, the person, like
Mhm.
basically attacked this person and criticized
Yes.
their ability to apply lipsticks. That's what is like a bad version of, that's where you're blurring the lines, where I'm not knowing the difference between if I'm looking at Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics Twitter or Jaclyn Twitter.
And yeah, and I think that that's what makes the difference is if you're an influencer, you're used to being an influencer. So when someone has something to say, like everybody on YouTube, we all have some level of snark. Okay, we all have some level of snark, some level of attitude. It's just part of the game. It's like you just have some, and part of that too is protection, right? A little bit of that
Yeah.
snark, a little bit of that like helps to keep you from taking things personally. Like if somebody you don't know on the internet says something mean to you or about you, you can just be like snarky, even if you don't say it out loud to them. You can just be snarky. It protects you from that feeling. So that being
Yes.
the case, when you have those kinds of situations, and we've seen it with Jeffree Star as well, when you have these kinds of situations where something is wrong with your product, you take it personally because it is you and you are it. And so you don't
Yes.
have the sense, one, to completely separate your Twitters, to have your business Twitter, your like my cosmetics Twitter, and your personal one. Two, you don't have the sense to be answering only from your business one to say, I'm so sorry you experienced this. Let me do blah, 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 blah. Instead, too many of
Exactly.
them are responding on their personal Twitter, being like, sorry that you can't put on makeup, you loser. You know what I mean? Like, and
Exactly.
that doesn't work when you are a brand because the fun fact is, even though loads of us on YouTube know about it, the reality of the situation is people who don't even watch YouTube might know about Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics simply from some like beauty blog that they read. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's a new
Yeah.
brand. And then so they buy it, they have an issue, they tweet, and then Jaclyn comes at them. Like these are the things that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think Alex makes a really good point that some of these bigger brands, when okay, I actually thought about this. So
Mm-hmm.
Alex's comment is, I think if Estee Lauder were to have something happen to them like Lipstick Gate, they also have the resources and legal protections to do a full recall. So
Correct.
something I thought about, and I don't remember the specific details of the speech, but I remember the owner of It Cosmetics, or the former owner of It Cosmetics, winning some award, and they
Mm-hmm.
gave this speech all about, like, I feel like they were speaking about diversity and all of these
Oh
good
yeah, but they have
things,
none.
but that's what I'm saying. So but they have none. They made this speech that, like, I feel like in any other situation you might be like, oh, what a sweet, nice, like, empowering speech, like,
Mm-hmm.
but, well, okay, I'm gonna say it. What a sweet, nice, like, white woman empowering speech, because, like, a lot of us are like, whatever, we don't care.
Yeah.
But they don't have any diversity. But this happened, if memory serves me, right about the time that they were purchased.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, I remember hearing about it in like some circles, but I feel like if they had been like just an indie brand, like previously, I feel like it would have gotten blown up. But I think their parent company like dealt with it. They were
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. We're gonna wrap this under the carpet as best we can. Like, I don't have proof of that, but it feels like that same thing, like a lipstick recall, where it's like,
Hmm.
no, it's like when like all of the things that Jared Blandino has done now that Too Faced has been owned by Estee Lauder, yeah, they're still getting in hot water sometimes, but it's different than I feel like even 5 years ago or so when they were like freshly purchased ish.
Yeah, because I mean, like, Toya was putting it,
Oh,
like, they
and
were
then
done emotionally, and that's the
yeah,
thing. It's so, and I'll say this, like, do as somebody who's doing YouTube, right, or a content creator, whatever we want to call ourselves. I will say this. I am actually, for the most part, pretty damn good at not responding emotionally, not getting angry, not flipping out on people. A lot of that is because I always kind of chalk it down to like, I don't know you. So, like, whatever. Like, I just hide you and move
yeah,
on. I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, there's no reason for me to like attack you. I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to say something nasty to you. Like, because it just, I don't like, that's not my behavior. Right. But all of these influencers, especially the 2016 biggies,
yeah,
they grew up in this, like, in the YouTube culture of hardcore snark, coming at people, clapbacks, like that was a whole thing where you clap back at people. I mean, I remember that, and
yeah,
people lived for it. Like, if somebody had something shitty to say about, like, oh, I bought so and so's collab, it was boring, that person could immediately just like clap back. That's the other thing with the influencers, is that 9 times out of 10 they've done collabs before, and then they just don't
yeah,
get the difference in between like collabing with the brand and having maybe a few clapbacks here and there on your Twitter or your Instagram or whatever, and like being the owner of your brand.
Well, and even not even that, like I think of Norvina a lot. Like Norvina, like I forgot about how Norvina in particular treated subculture because I
Yeah.
remember because Alyssa Ashley was the first person on YouTube that I saw criticize the way the subculture palette performed. If you didn't see that, it was like it seemed like they were very underpressed and maybe they're like a pigment. So anyway, it was a shit show. I'm not going
Yeah.
to cover that, but it was very much like you just don't know how to use it.
Yep.
Oh, it also makes me think of how James Charles handled criticism about the Morphe palette after he marketed it as it's for everyone and it's so easy to use.
Hmm.
But like I don't think it's specifically just influencers that do the parasocial brand thing, but I do think that they have set a trend. Like that's why parasocial relationships in my opinion are being used in the frequency that they are these days because brands are seeing the way people respond to feeling like they know a person. So when it's Norvina and they're calling for PR, for people to add to the PR list, when they're doing this and that, when they're, giving away tickets to the big Halloween party, all of these things make people feel more and more like, oh, I know ABH, I
Yep.
know Norvina. And then I feel like when the Norvina sister line actually came out, or when that collection actually came out, I feel like that like pulled the wool off the eyes of a lot of people.
Hmm.
They were like, wait, you're a business?
Yeah.
Because like they bought one big pallet and then 2 weeks later another big pallet came out and so they bought that and then like fucking 2 weeks later a third big pallet came out. Like they just it was actually like mind-blowing to me seeing people, like the shocking amount of people that were like, I never expected this.
What
And I'm like,
happened?
it's
But I also
they're
think
a
that
business.
that's a unique situation as well, though, because I I stand by this. ABH went downhill the moment that Norvina was more interested in trying to behave and act like an influencer and hang out with influencers than she was in mainstreaming and running her. I was like mainstreaming her business and making sure that the business was going according to plan. I think that what happened is she got caught up. Like influencer life I feel like is something that can be very easy to get caught up in,
Yeah.
especially if you're in that LA scene. It's got to be super easy. You go to parties, you look good all the time, you have to have the right car and all of this stuff. You're showing off all of your shit on Instagram and Twitter. You know what I mean? Like it's very easy to get caught up in, right? And I feel like Anastasia was like, she did interviews and whatnot, but I don't feel like she was
Yeah.
super interested in like, I'm an influencer. But Norvina was, and you could clearly see it in the way that she behaved and even the way that she did her PR stunts, which mother of all PR stunts.
Seriously, like the ultimate use of PR stunt. I mean, of
Yeah, it's
stunt.
still
Of
felt to this day.
yeah,
Right? Like when other brands are saying that they're looking for people for PR, I think more people are wary of retweeting or doing anything because you realize it's just free business. And you're
yeah.
like, yeah, I'll think about it.
Yeah. But even it still works. Like I still think about the way Elf fucked up recently, but
Mm-hmm.
that all started from a Twitter thread like that. When to me, it was like, oh, you just wanted attention on Twitter because you didn't actually pay any attention to anything people said in that thread, but you just wanted it to blow up so people would follow and tag and all of that. But like I also think about the other thing is that so like a lot of these brands feel like, okay, if you start, if customers feel a connection and they think that they're somehow your friend, that you're friends with Norvina or you're friends with KBD or with Huda or whomever, the problem with that is that, like, yes, it can sell more things, but when that person messes up,
Mm.
that's no longer just a personal mess up. Lisa. That's a brand like when Norvina, like even just finding out that like Norvina and the ABH company would like not hire people depending on astrology,
Mm-hmm.
or when things started coming out about Michelle Phan and like essential oils and the panini and like
How they
when
were treating people of color. Like,
yeah,
ugh.
and even if it's not in their business setting, like even if it's just personal decisions, that's the thing, is that it can be personal life decisions, but because you somehow think you're friends with this person, if that's something that you don't get along with, that might feel like an ultimate betrayal, and now you can't shop from that brand anymore. And so
Yeah.
this relationship that you work so hard to like manipulate with this customer goes from, oh, I can get their money lifelong,
Mm-hmm.
to, oh, now they're never going to shop from me again because of
Yeah.
how disgusted they are. And so I think that's the thing, is that like brands look at this immediate payoff, but they don't think about, okay, what happens if I'm showing more of myself on the internet? What happens if people don't like that?
Yeah, like when it all falls down, as we saw with Kat Von D, when she just stubbornly. Because here's the thing: we like whether or not you're an anti-vaxxer. The point is, we all know that there are things that aren't popular for you to talk about publicly. You can if
Yes.
you want to, but you need to accept the fact that a lot of people aren't going to agree with you. And I don't say that to be like, oh, you can't talk about it, but it's just we all know that there are things that you shouldn't talk about out loud, just generally, if you don't
Yeah.
want a mountain of shit coming at
Your
you.
way.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you just realize, like, you know what? Even though I am an anti-vaxxer, I'm going to keep that to myself because people don't like that.
Exactly.
And so when Kat came out and was like that, and just kept doubling and tripling down on the whole thing, and then it just turned into everything not just about her, but about her husband, and it just got a lot, right? So
Yeah.
she never was able to recover from that. Like there weren't enough anti-vax fans to cover her, to keep her business running well. And the thing is, in the world of influencers, if everybody stops talking about your brand on this side, this is
Yeah.
a huge market that disappears. Like as much as we want to like act like and be like, oh, they don't even know about makeup or whatever. This is a huge market. Tati has how many 10 million subscribers at this point now? She has a 10 million subscribers, and generally at least 1 million people have watched one of her videos. So you
Yeah.
cannot tell me that that's not some kind of reach, like that isn't doing anything. And there's other
Yeah.
Tatis on this platform. You know what I mean? There's other like
On
million
other
subscribers.
platforms, like
Yes.
on the TikTok. I was gonna say like on things like TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. Here's the thing too is that sometimes it doesn't even matter if you disagree with that. If you are especially if you're a creator and you see the reaction that people were having to the anti-vax statements from KVD, you might just be like, I'm gonna slowly step back. I'm gonna use this off
Yeah.
camera. I'm gonna well, the thing is that the anti-vax is what turned that's what
Yeah.
flipped the switch. Unfortunately, the racism and the anti-Semitism and
Did
all of these
nothing.
other things did nothing. It was the anti-vaxxing that made people actually flip out. And this was pre what we've gone through for the last 15 months to 2 years at this
Yeah.
point. So, but I think it's just interesting because people no, now I'm starting to think about how there are the Jaclyn Hills or the Jeffree Stars who kind of keep being able. I don't think Jeffree Star is successfully doing it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Jaclyn is, and I'm trying to figure out. But I think the thing is that they are like the 1 in 1 million, and all of
Yeah.
these other brands are trying to do that. And that level of manipulation, that skill, is not for everyone. Not everyone
It is
can
not.
do that. So I think people look at that and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to follow that business model."
I'd
But
also say that the thing about Jaclyn Hill, though, is that she's
yeah,
not actually a terrible person.
I disagree.
She, as a person, generally isn't awful. And by that, I mean she's not out here being hateful and shitty and nasty at every turn. She's just like, I don't know. I find her to be an immature, weird person, and that's like her business. And her business,
Her whole
in business
evangel
dealings, she's not good. That's what I'm going to say. In her business dealings as CEO of whatever her company is, separate. Her as a person, though, I don't think she's a terrible person.
See, I see it very differently. I see her manipulating her fans at every turn and purposely doing it. I don't think it's necessarily hateful, but I don't think that level of manipulation is kind. Like I see the used car salesman, snake oil salesman, evangelical background, and I'm not criticizing religion. I'm criticizing the things that she grew up around and the influences can make you a perfect salesperson to manipulate millions of people into following every word you say and buying everything, every collab that you come out with that just happens to be somehow fucked up.
I don't know. I've been thinking about this for a little while because there's a level to where I'm like, but is she actually manipulating people? Like when I watch that Bougie Rouge, I can't say the name of that because it makes me feel
Remember,
stupid.
think about people 10, 20, 30 years younger than you.
That's true. But like, I don't know. I guess the way that I look at it is like, it's kind of no different than most commercials where like if you're watching a commercial and they're like they have that moment where they're like smiling in the car, they're like, yeah, and it's like, look out, and it's like, and then they stop and they're like, with Volvo you're safe, with da 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 da, your car will stop and you will live, nothing bad will happen to you, and then like they kind of jerk to a stop and they're like, and like, Volvo, for a better tomorrow. Like it's no different. Like I just
No, but this is what we're talking about right now. It's parasocial relationship turned into selling. This is what
That's
I'm
true.
exactly
That's
saying
true.
is that she has taken the parasocial relationship of, hey guys, I love you so much. I care about you so much.
That's
I'm so
true.
sorry I've been so long. I've gone away. I'm just drinking my new beverage. You know you want my beverage, right? Like I think it's taking that, and maybe it didn't start as I
Yeah.
want to sell you everything. Maybe it started as a genuine, I'm just putting makeup on in my home. I'm not criticizing that. I'm criticizing what it has turned into. And that
Yeah.
I think that she can sell water to a fish, or however you want to say that.
No, that's a
And
good saying.
it's not everyone will fall for it. A lot of us will see through it. But I feel like when we're talking about like parasocial brands and these relationships, I think thinking about teenagers, because I think about
Yeah.
how magazines from my childhood, teenage years, media from those years have affected me into my 30s. And I think about it in the same way, just the way seeing certain body types always in teen magazine or 17 or whatever affected how I viewed myself or what I was purchasing. I think that is what YouTube is doing now, and TikTok and all of these. So,
Yeah. I think, yeah, I think it's weird because there's a level to which Jaclyn uses her parasocial relationship to sell her parasocial brand, right? Um, and it's like the parasocial relationship itself isn't actually problematic. Like her parasocial relationship isn't actually problematic. It's only problematic when it's part of her brand, because literally every influencer has some kind of parasocial relationship where they sell. I just don't have a brand
yeah.
to
Or
be fucked with.
every affiliate code that you weren't disclosing until you got called up, I hear, for the tea.
Correct.
Or every
Correct.
collaboration. Like, yes, collaborations are different than brands, but I think that it's already set the example of like this is how it works. And so now that there's a brand involved, it's just even easier to do, I mean, and I won't necessarily fault only Jaclyn for not disclosing the
Hmm.
Morphe code, because everyone was doing that. But
And
like,
people were like, I also do keep in mind that there weren't necessarily YouTube rules that you had to disclose at that
yeah,
point in time. And
exactly.
it wasn't until after that broke that they put the FTC, is that right? FTC put in rules that
Yeah.
you have to disclose that you're getting paid from some shit, which I don't even know how they do that and how they manage to track it at all. They
I don't know
don't.
if they do, but like I think the manipulation can be just as bad. I don't think it's necessarily Jeffrey level, because I think
Yeah.
Jeffrey as a person is a monster in a different way, at least from what I've seen. And that's the thing, is also that's the other downfall, is like the more you show of yourself, the more proof I have, very, very roughly saying, of like how good or bad you are, thus how much I do or don't want to support you,
Well, see,
like, or your
here's the
brand.
fun fact, Chelsea, because Chelsea said, this is why I don't like big influencers. They're bought. I'd rather have real bitches telling me about products. Here's the fun thing. There are several small creators who not only make a living doing this, but are doing very well. And I'm talking people who have like 15,000 subscribers who are living off of their YouTube. Like,
And by doing well, I'm going to say they're also glazing over bad faults about things, because they want to have
yeah,
a good review to keep brand relationships. And again, this is another example of parasocial brands at a smaller level.
thank you.
All of the wigs Audra's been wearing lately really makes me want to go on a wig shopping spree, for real. Like, but that's the thing, is that that kind of relationship can also totally be manipulated at a smaller level, because
Yes.
if you support certain indie brands because they mean something to you, whatever that means, because you have a parasocial relationship with the brand, and then you're also a creator and you're like, yes, I have an affiliate code, but I love the brand. That might be true. That might be only kind of true. Like,
Yeah. I mean, so like when brands get into this, basically what brands are trying to do is be influencers in a way, right? They're trying to tap into that same Jaclyn Hill thing. They're
Yes.
all trying to tap into this idea of if we behave like these influencers behave, then we will have people feel the way they do about Jaclyn, about us. The problem is a lot of big brands won't buy into it, right? You
Yeah.
have the really big brands that just won't buy into it. And one is because they're really good with marketing and they fully understand the downfalls of doing this. Like
Yeah.
even when they have campaigns with an actress or singer on there and there something happens with that actress or singer, there's a liability there that they know that they're assuming.
Yep.
So they don't want to get into this super fun game of being like, I'm just like you. Hey there, makeup lovers, beauty fiends, beauty babes. It's
It
us,
makes me think of that
big
Steve Buscemi
makeup
meme.
brand.
Like, hey there, kid. Like,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that is like so gross seeing is when you see, and I feel like the brand that comes to mind the most is a brand like ColourPop, and I'm sure they're successful at doing this, but because I'm not young, um it doesn't do it for me. But like the memes and all of this stuff where I'm like, just sell me your product. Don't
Yeah.
don't do this. And I don't think the consumer can't win.
Yeah.
But I think this goes back to something that we talked about a lot off camera, and I think some on stream and in videos. No one can be your moral compass but you.
Yes.
When it comes to shopping, when it comes to what you watch, what you do with your life, and I think that's the thing is that as creators, people look to us to tell them this brand is good, that brand is not good, this is a good product, this is a bad product. But that's why I think a lot of us, like when we review something, we're not just like this is good or this is bad. We're like, I have oily skin and it behaves this way, and this is how this product does, and it's blah blah blah. So we're
I was
trying
on
to
my
tell
period when I
you
was trying to stop
exactly.
like
And here's the thing is that so Chelsea Rose asked, doesn't that disingenuous nature hurt all YouTubers? It degrades the integrity of the whole platform. When it comes to money and making money, people don't care.
And here's the thing, it's like yes and no. So here's where the yes, it does hurt all YouTubers because it all that happened, the whole Morphe codes happened in 2016. In
Yeah.
2021, we are still having arguments over whether or not people should be able to sell things, whether or not people should be able to make money, who has
Yes.
influencer codes. This seems like an undisclosed sponsorship. The trust has never come back since that happened because the thing of it is, nobody cares. I feel like the thing was nobody really cared that people were making money off of YouTube. What they cared about is that you didn't tell them you were going to be making money. That was the
Yes.
thing that most people cared about. The unfortunate side effect is that it morphed and twisted, ironically having to use the word morphed, but it morphed and twisted to become all these beauty YouTubers are just selling us stuff. They don't care. They're all this, they're all that. And it's like, okay, so and we've talked about this multiple times, YouTube doesn't actually make you a ton of dinero. It doesn't. You have to be at a particular size for YouTube to be like really making you money, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, the majority of the money you're making is going to be through sponsorships, paid sponsorships, affiliate links, affiliate codes,
Yeah.
um, collaborations. Like that's how you're going to make your money on YouTube. But to get there, some people are ruthless and will do whatever it takes to get there, right? To just get to where they
Exactly.
don't have to go back to a shitty office job that they're not going to enjoy, right? Like there are a lot of things that people will do that. And that's part of that parasocial relationship that YouTubers and all YouTubers use. Everybody who sells something uses a form of their parasocial relationship to sell things.
Yeah.
But there's a level to where you realize like this is where I draw lines, right? Like I will tell you about my affiliate links. I will tell you products that I like, what I don't like. blah de do. And I will
Yeah.
still link the products I don't like, because if I'm
Same.
telling you that I have oily skin and I don't like this cleanser because it's making my skin way too dewy and moist and I don't like it, you could be dry skinned and be like, I want that because that's what I need in my life.
Yeah. Or if I try on a lip color and I'm like, oh, this color is really pretty, but it's way too dry and my poor little delicate lips will just cannot do it. Somebody might be like, I don't care. Give me all the dry lip products. I want that color, like,
Mm-hmm.
and buy it. But I do think, and I don't know if, wait, did you have more to say? Because I feel like I cut you off.
No, go ahead, because I probably already forgot.
But I think this is another good conversation of like, who do we see that either has a brand that's named after themselves or who is an influencer with the brand doing good work? And I do feel like Manny is an example. I said this earlier, but I think another really good example is Drench Cosmetics and Josh Killicky.
Yes.
And the thing is that with both of those brands, I feel like they have a strong brand identity.
Yes.
Of themselves. They have Lunar Beauty has the whole like celestial kind of astrology feel, the Sailor Moon references, all of these like I feel like it has a identity. Like it had like we did work and we figured out what we wanted this brand to be, but we're not stuck in a box exactly.
Yes.
And I feel like it stands separate from Manny. And I feel the same way about Drench. And the reason why I mention it is because like I do follow Josh as a creator and I feel like I'm friends with him. And they have a Twitch channel and they do gaming and they have a YouTube and they do music reactions and like he's on Instagram all on himself by like as his own. And yeah, he talks about makeup, but like a billion other topics. And because
like Drench is a completely separate thing from separate. Josh.
And as I've gotten to know Josh, I see parts of who he is in Drench, but I don't look at Drench and see like just that person. Like I see kind of an identity on its own. I would never confuse their Twitters for each other. I would never confuse their Instagrams. And so like I've been thinking about that where I'm like, you know, parasocial relationships are just the way of life these days. Yeah. Like I don't think that like
I think it's always been there too. We just didn't have a name for it.
And I think we didn't have the level of connection that the internet has made us think we have. So I've been thinking, I'm like, what other brands do you feel like are doing it well or even to feel like have like turned it around? Because like did I think of positively of Lunar Beauty when it first launched? No. But as I've watched like and I felt more of a separation from Manny as a person, especially because his first palette had his face on it, and then none of the others have had his face until his rebrand. Oh yeah, Auric. Yes.
So, and this is the thing. I think if you like, because Sam Ravindall can very much and does promote, you know, Auric on their channel, right?
Yeah.
Howsoever, they still do their other reviews. They still do the other stuff that they were doing, and they aren't Auric. Does that make sense? Like Josh isn't Drench and Manny isn't Lunar Beauty. And interestingly enough, I think a lot of people change their opinion of Manny based on how he was handling Lunar Beauty.
Yeah.
Because Lunar Beauty was separate from him. He does not sit there and act like Lunar Beauty. He is Lunar Beauty and Lunar Beauty is him. Yeah. And I think that is a very, very important thing to do. You have to separate the two things. You cannot let them both be simultaneously a part of you, because what ends up happening is once this happens, you end up with your Jaclyn Hill situations, you end up with your Jeffree Star. And I'm always hoping that Jaclyn Hill can just kind of cut the YouTube thing. My opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that they should. I think they should focus on their brand, and then like what their YouTube channel would be is like fun commercials for their brand
They
and
should just
interviewing
rename
other
the brand.
influencers using her products, like just
Like,
doing stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
what's your favorite da, da, da? And then like talking about makeup. She could have a freaking YouTube show where she just sits there with other influencers and talks about makeup and like throws up her brand stuff and does all this stuff. Like her ads are like her brand is
Yeah.
the ads. Listen,
She
Jaclyn, call
should
me
just
baby.
rename her channel to Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics. And
Yes.
that in my opinion would what am I trying to say? If the channel was named that, then everybody that's like, you only come back to promote things, it's like, well, look, it was rebranded to my brand. So if you don't like it, deuces, like get out. But like I actually think so a brand that was mentioned in the comments, and I know that I have a generally negative feeling about this brand, period. But
Mm-hmm.
I actually think Makeup Geek is the example of like what not to do. And I think
I
it's
would agree.
because of how Marlena ended her YouTube career. And
Yeah.
that to me was mixing like personal and business into this
Mm-hmm.
gross, nasty cocktail. Like, and I was like, look, there are things that happened that obviously have upset you and are upsetting probably personally and for your business. But the way you went out, it didn't make like it was just toxic. And I still think, just like how we're still dealing with the after effects of Morphe from 2016, the
Mm-hmm.
after effects of $60,000 have stayed with us and are
Yep.
something that all of us creators are dealing with and fighting against all of the time. And I'm like, look, and that's the other thing that happens is that when you have a parasocial brand and then the brand is struggling or has issues, I feel like that also like that vulnerability can come out, and that's not the space to do that. As a
Yeah.
business, you never want to look vulnerable. As a person, sometimes you do, but that's why you don't mix the two.
Yeah, because
Like,
I do think that I would agree. Like when the way that Marlena did that, and I know we can all have very differing views, but I'm never gonna forgive her for that because when you saying basically that I could not afford someone who was trying to force them to like wanted them to like reduce their rates to work with me. Now,
yeah.
and at that time, the person in question that we think allegedly that she was talking about was James Charles, who at that
Mm-hmm.
time we did not know was a pedophile, but
It doesn't
allegedly.
matter. I mean,
So,
his
but
what he's done matters. What
yes.
that example was for is not relevant. I'm
Well,
just
I'm
gonna
just saying it
say.
for anybody who didn't know that stuff, so that when
Okay,
if they're
that's
coming
true.
and watching,
That's
they
true.
know that like at that point in time, that's not how we viewed him. So he had millions of subscribers. For you
Yes.
to basically say to come out and be mad that you tried to approach someone and they were like, "These are my rates," and you got like, "I don't have that." Like, okay, well that is your business. That's
Yeah.
you need to move on. You need to get people you can afford. Because the thing is, the game changed while you were creating your brand. No offense, but while you were creating your brand, the game changed. People
Well,
started
the
making
brand
really big money.
existed. No. Here's the thing: is the brand existed while she made bad business decisions with Jaclyn Hill.
Mm,
She got because her brand has been around for a long time.
it has, but I'm just
but
yeah.
but I could tell because there was a time where people were like, where are all the Makeup Geek products, why aren't they releasing new things,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And looking back, that was during the time when she didn't have a contract signed and
Hmm.
produced a bunch of stuff.
So she made a
So
lot of poor business decisions and then gets upset. And the reality is, if like let's say I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, I have a million subscribers. What I would demand for a sponsorship is going to change. And like this is
yeah.
one of the things that I do worry about with indie brands at times is because a lot of them are doing things with smaller creators. Now here's the problem. Some of these creators are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as they get bigger, you
Yeah.
can't afford them and you can't be mad that you can't afford them. And that's why I think it's really important for indie brands to stay just brands, to not get too involved
Yes.
in being an influencer. Because one of the best things about indie brands to me is not only like the quality and amazing products that they create, but also it's that they can work with creators like myself, like Emily.
Yeah.
They can work with smaller creators and do like come up with collabs. You have the Lethal collab with Teresa. Like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff is amazing because you can have this happen with somebody who doesn't have, 250,000 subscribers, who doesn't have 100,000 subscribers. You can have collabs with smaller folks. And the fun part is you can have collabs with them multiple times before they blow up. And in that time frame, you're still like, one of the things I love about indie brands also is that they get to nurture this talent. They
Yeah.
get to nurture this talent.
Exactly.
Like that's one of the best things about what they do is they constantly get to find talent, nurture it, do collabs, put people on maps in ways that they would never be put on the map by big brands.
Exactly.
Huge brands would never come and be like, Audra, German last name. We saw your YouTube video. It got 1.1K views. Damn, you are just smashing it. So we'd like you to do a collab with us, Marc Jacobs. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
like
Like,
like a big name brand is not going to release a 9-pan colorful palette like this.
mhm,
They're not going to like be like, oh, you want to name it Body Snatched? Okay, sure.
mhm.
Like the thing is that yeah, indie incubators, exactly, like they get to nurture. And here's the thing that I also think, because like I have worked with small businesses and been around small businesses for a long time, and like I've worked around like with the food industry and stuff. And the thing is that I think that, and like I had to like kind of push this out of like the place that I worked for a long time, where I was like, you can show personality in your social media. And I
Yeah,
think that like you can still show like behind the scenes or things like that. There are ways to continue to stoke a parasocial relationship without making it, hi, I'm Emily, here's behind the scenes, just
yeah,
there's like a way to do it where you're going to get people interested in what's happening, and maybe they do know the owner's name, or they know who runs the social media or whatever, but they don't know that you're having a bad day and you're pissed off, or they don't know
correct.
like, oh, you just got like, there's just times where I see brands sharing things and I'm like, there's a difference between sharing something for like um for transparency purposes, like to
Yes.
customer. Like there are ways to share things to customers, like when a bunch of shipments got turned away, that were international shipments that got turned away in the United States, like we weren't being able to be shipped out. I saw multiple different indie brands like talking about it in their stories, like
Yeah.
whatever. And generally, I didn't see anything that made me go, ew, but I could see that going badly real easily,
Yeah.
like being like a ranty situation, where in reality it should just be an email out to any of the customers to say this is happening. We'll keep you abreast of whatever is like what's next. But like I just think that there are ways to do it, but people see just the way influencers are working and running their social media, and they think that they can just copy that. Like
Yeah.
that's not how it works.
Because I feel like it's because like everything's, as shitty as this sounds to say, but everything's a stepping stone, right? Like every brand, like for instance, indie brands do have to learn, because like indie brands won't always be indie brands, but the indie brands we
Yes.
have now are setting the stage for the up and coming indie brands. And then these brands that are indie will move into like more mainstream, perhaps. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
as that starts happening, they'll be moving, and they may also still move with the creator, right? Like they'll both grow together and they make the whole thing work, like Becca and Jaclyn Hill did back in the day. Like, she kind of put Becca on the map.
Yeah.
So the reality of that situation is that like I think it's really important for brands to stay brands, because the more that you stay a brand, the less likely you are to run into issues or problems. And then like the thing is, if you stay a brand, right, if people are upset about something you've done, then you address it as a brand and you don't address it as a
Exactly.
person. And like that's why when we were both actually talking about Marlena and what she'd done, I don't think people realize how much that has hurt beauty YouTube and continues to hurt beauty YouTube because it makes people angry because everybody thinks like way too many people think that everybody on YouTube is just making so much money in beauty YouTube. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we're not. And so it just turns everything into all we're trying to do is make money. That's all we're, and one, who cares? Everybody should be able to make a living.
Yeah.
But two, it gave everybody this like this ooky feeling that every time a creator talks about something, they're lying. And
Yeah.
it's just like this whole thing where where it feels like you are working so hard to build a platform, to build a community, and all doing it without having to like constantly having to over explain yourself, being like, okay, I like this foundation. I am very sweaty. I'm oily. I'm an oily person. I'm oily. I'm sweaty and oily. I have big pores and I'm oily and sweaty. And I'm 41. I'm sweaty, oily, 41. I'm 41, oily, sweaty, big pores, sweaty, 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 big pores, 41, oily, sweaty, oily, sweaty. It feels like you're doing that just so that if somebody buys it, and
Yeah.
then they don't like it, and then they tell you, I have oily skin and this was terrible, you're a liar. And I'm like, I swear to you, I told you 77
Yeah.
times
But
that I like this like this.
that's
I
why we're
like
not
it.
your moral compass. Because, like, if you're only watching one person and you're buying based on that one person, and if you're watching multiple people and only one of them is oily, like, yeah, and I feel like the other thing is that, like, Thorin made a good point about so many indie brands act like it's a personal account. They don't act in
Yeah.
a way that's professional in some capacity. What a professional means different things. I think it's a kind of a silly word, but anyway,
It is.
they don't treat it like a business.
Yeah.
And then I also feel like they are also, a lot of those brands are the ones that will complain about not being able to grow, not this,
Mhm.
not that. And I'm like, babes, it's connected. Like, it's
Yes.
connected. Like, if you treat it as a business and not as a influencer creator account, and you do things like you email your customers, not put it on a disappearing Instagram story,
Yes.
you actually, if you're going to actually look for people to send PR to, you actually send it. You don't just do like, we're looking for an influencer, and you never
Yeah, you never
actually
do it.
give away that spot. Like, there are just so many times, and you said, I love indie brands, I shop from them a lot, I want all of them to succeed, or I would say, like,
Yes.
the majority of them, I want them to succeed, I want them to do well, I want them to keep releasing amazing shit and, like, pushing the boundaries of what we see in the makeup world. But then I see them do some fuckery constantly, and I'm like, if I could just be a small business consultant, like, I would fucking
I'm sorry. I don't know why that just got me off guard. I'm
I
like,
can't, I
oh,
won't be bullied.
Amber,
I love it, Amber. I love it.
I won't be bullied. You
Yes.
guys
Like,
make me buy shit. Hey, Jeff. Jeff's in the house.
hey, Jeff. And yes, I hate this too. Like, when you're talking about your brand not doing well, and there's this whole guilt trip about it. And I'm just like, look, like, that's not, it's just no.
Because here's the thing, even as YouTubers, our parasocial relationship, right? We have to be careful not to
Yeah.
say certain things to guilt people, right? Even if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't intend it as guilt. Like if you are doing YouTube and you have a crisis where you just feel like things aren't working out, you're not growing the way you thought you were going to grow, all of these things, you don't want to come on your channel and be like, I'm thinking of quitting.
Yeah. Even
Even if you feel
saying
it.
too much, even saying like being like, I'm so frustrated, like, even just talking about it too much, like, even not saying I'm thinking about quitting, but just kind of expressing a frustration over and over again.
Like,
I
I'm
feel
not getting the
like,
views. I'm doing this. What am
yeah,
I doing wrong? Like
exactly. And
if you
I think you have been able, like, you've been joking about it a little bit, Audra, in a way that's funny. Like,
Yeah.
Put it out to the algorithm goddess. They won't respond anyway, but whatever.
Like the way that
Like,
I'm like that I say that I made that my end, like thumbs up the video so that YouTube will continue pushing me further down into the algorithm and I can continue doing whatever the fuck I want, which is actually very helpful for me,
yeah,
honestly. Like if YouTube doesn't want to push me, cool, but it also opens me up to do whatever I want content wise. I can just have a blast doing all kinds of stuff and it's fine. But like
yeah.
brand owners can't come out and make you feel responsible. And I feel like that's part of what Marlena was doing, was trying to make
Marlena
people
did that
feel
to
bad for the
the.
fact that her brand wasn't doing well. And I'm like, babes, it's like boring. Like it's nothing against you personally. It's just boring. I like better shit came along and you didn't grow with that. You didn't pay attention to the trends. You didn't like pay
and
attention to the
because
shit changing.
I specifically
Oh yes.
saw, like, I specifically saw what or like we saw to some degree what happened between her and Jaclyn. I was like, I am not feeling bad. This is me being a mean bitch right now. I'm not feeling bad about your really fucking stupid business decision. Actually, it makes me feel good that I haven't spent much money, if any, at this brand, because I'm like, because I'm petty. I'm like, I don't want to give you my money. Like, you don't. But like, that's my thing. And so it's like, I just feel like people need to understand that, like, if you show your vulnerability as a brand,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good move.
It is not.
Yeah, and that the identity part of it that iHorn Makeup said, it's almost like when people add an identity or influencer behind the brand, we get a double-edged sword.
We do.
That's exactly what it is. And I just think there are so many times when I see a brand and I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing that person in this brand, but it doesn't inspire me because, like, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be them, you know?
Yeah. And
Like,
that's the thing. I don't want to do my makeup like them and I don't do my makeup like them. So like that's why I
exactly.
think, Samantha Ravendall, like doing Auric, Manny MUA doing Lunar Beauty. I think that they've been successful and have done well because not only did they not name it after them, but they aren't blurring that line between the two things. Even though they have their products on their channel to
Yeah.
do the reveals and all of that, they're just not making their channel like this destination for their products all the time. They
Yeah.
have other content, they do other things, they collab with other people. It doesn't feel like one, it also doesn't feel like they've lost the passion for YouTube. I'll say that as well. It doesn't feel like they've lost that passion.
Yes.
It feels like they still enjoy doing YouTube. They also have this other venture. That's why when people get mad about Jaclyn, and I'm just like, I think to a degree, Jaclyn still likes doing YouTube. She still likes coming and doing this thing. She hasn't figured out how to fit all the shit together yet, though, right? Like she
See,
still has other videos from time to time. A lot of them are still with affiliate links, but that's
but
everybody.
the thing is that I actually feel different. I feel like she should just give up YouTube or just switch it to her brand
I
channel and
agree.
just do it that way. Because I feel like she keeps getting pulled back because everyone is saying, we want a video, we want a video. But I
Yes.
don't necessarily feel like she's enjoying it. And that's okay. It's okay to not want to do something you did before, whether it's a hobby, a job, whatever. It's okay to change your mind. It's
Yeah,
like,
because like her
that's the
last
thing.
video was 3 days ago, reacting to my most controversial and viral moments. Like, I feel like she's doing like the stuff that she has to do. I think that she likes YouTube. I just think that she should figure out how she want, like you said, just make it her brand channel
Yeah.
and do behind the scenes with Jaclyn. So like basically she could still keep making the same content, but just be like
Yeah.
behind the scenes with Jaclyn
And
Hill of
just make
Jaclyn
it whatever
Cosmetics.
she wants and not feel the pressure. Like, and I haven't kept up with, honestly, with her in years. So I
I
was
know.
talking from, like, I don't, from just like what I've heard. And then, yeah, a great example of doing it terribly is Patrick Starr. Like, the
No.
way
Oh
that
gosh.
he, like, dissed Rare Beauty and was saying
That
how his liner was so much better, and then the whole mask Tana, Nikita, like, just all of these things where I'm like, I don't care if you're, I don't care. I'm not supporting that. Like,
yes, like I
yeah,
Patrick, here's the funny thing about Patrick Star to me is Patrick Star was literally never on my radar. Period. Point
Yeah.
blank. Ever. Not ever. Even when I showed up in Beauty YouTube in 2016, I was like, I saw him once, and I was like, okay, moving on. And I went on with my business. Didn't care.
Yeah.
Then it's like, here's the problem that Patrick Star just really didn't grasp. It was that he put out his one size brand, which flop. I'm gonna say I don't care. I'm gonna say flop.
Like
Everything
a
flop.
like
All
me
of it.
belly flopping into a pool. Big
Yes.
loud flop.
That thing buckled like my knees when I'm trying to like run, okay? Like just slam blam. Like it was bad. Like, and I think the problem with Patrick Starr was that he kept to himself so damn long that his little goofy ass did not realize that the game had changed and controversy is not the way you win anymore. And he thought he was being cute and all this kikiing with Nikita of all people. And it has not gone according to plan.
Well,
He's
also,
not selling like
again,
he thought it was going to sell, and nobody's even talking about him much for like drama wise. They're just like, ew, okay,
but
moving on.
but again, he saw people that were still using the old game and it was working. The Tanas and the Nikitas,
Mhm.
whatever, for whatever reason, it's still working for them. And
Wait, what
he
does Tana sell?
not just herself,
Oh,
just being drama. I'm talking about as an influencer, being in drama, being scandalous, being whatever. Like that is what I think Patrick Starr was trying to do, thus to help push his brand. When the reality is that just because it's working for these two specific people doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. Um,
I'm sorry. I'm like, I keep laughing because I saw somebody say one size was definitely a flop, but it was this big ass dry ass face wipes.
and I was confused because you didn't even comment that or like highlight that
Well, because
one.
I was trying. Bless you.
Thank you.
Um,
Mm,
so no, here's the thing. She will not lose them as a consumer because
no.
I honestly think that when you start taking steps back, like for instance, obviously this is nowhere near the same, but I've had to take multiple steps back from being plugged into all of my social media. There was a point in time where I answered like every comment, like da da da.
Yeah.
It got to be a lot because the thing is, I never expected to grow
Yeah.
as a creator. I didn't expect to grow as a creator. I figured I would just stay where I was, and so I was just like, so it was no sweat off my back to like respond to every comment, like whatever, because it was four comments, maybe two, like it
Yeah.
wasn't an ordeal. Now I just have to kind of like especially on Instagram, like I respond a lot more on my YouTube, but on Instagram, I fall apart there at times, and then you'll just see like a flurry of comments, and then I just disappear for a long period of time. But
Yeah.
I think that when you're talking, like I guess to wrap it up, or
Yeah.
like my wrap up, and then you do yours. I think that brands, it is a very slippery slope trying to encourage a parasocial relationship with your buyers because your consumer is going to want more from you than you think you are ready to give. The like in 2021, people want to know that you are cruelty free, you're vegan, they want to know that you
Yeah.
follow the same political ideology. So like when you add all of that together, like it doesn't make sense for a brand to have a parasocial relationship if you truly think about it. Because if you are extremely left leaning or you are extremely conservative, if you find out your brand is the opposite of that, chances are you don't want to buy it. And we've seen
Yeah.
it. So, like, I think it is a horrifying and terrible plan. This is why brands need to go back to being corporations and not people, especially in the US specifically, because we allow corporations to be counted as people. I think it's really important that they go back to just being corporations and not people, because then they can't donate money to anything. They just have to be a brand.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think
I
it's a slippery slope. Don't do any of that stuff, and be careful as a consumer getting caught up in that parasocial relationship.
and I think the part that I just want to add on to that, it's not even that brands like get in over their head or like they're like, oh, it's so. the thing that I like, one of the things that I work on as a person and that I think is very important for really anybody that's a creator or a brand owner or period, you will never satisfy everyone. You will
Fact.
never make every person happy. So when you are a brand trying to present yourself as a person, as this best friend to all of your consumers, you are always going to have people that don't agree with what you like, what you support, what you're promoting.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than trying to have this relationship of we're all friends and like buy from me because I'm your friend, I would rather you say, this is who I am, this is the brand, this is our aesthetic, this is what we do. If you like it, great, awesome. We'll repost you, we'll fucking promote the shit out of you, whatever. But if you don't, that's fine. Move on. Go do something,
Yeah.
go shop from somewhere else. But I think it really comes down to when brands try to act like people, they face this issue of like they're never going to make other people happy, and it
Mm-hmm.
turns into this like internal struggle about how do we make everyone happy, how do this, whereas I feel like if you just stay as a brand.
We got about 3 more minutes.
We're wrapping up right now.
I'm so
If you
sorry. Like I heard the storm and like my
no,
last.
it's all good. It's all good. I was just like deep breath. I was just gonna say like, so don't try to make your brand a personal thing. Your brand is your brand. It's business. It's not
Mm-hmm.
personal. And if you have a strong aesthetic and brand like image behind it, you'll find people that like it, and that's all you have to focus on.
Yeah. Brands I have a strong
So
relationship with, I have the strong relationship with the brand. If I have a strong relationship with the brand owner, I do. It's fine.
yeah.
That's me. But it doesn't mean it has to be you.
No. Well, also, no, we're not all influencers. So as a viewer, what you see Audra have or I have or other people have is not realistic for a lot of people because you are not an influencer, you're not a creator. So enjoy what you enjoy, get excited by what you get excited by, but don't let these relationships make you feel, oh,
Is
Josh,
my coddle bug
hello.
coming in at the end? Hi.
Oh, hello. We have to wrap it up because there's a storm in
Yes.
Texas,
I know,
but
like I just didn't want the same thing to happen where the power like
just
blinks
like
out and then
click,
I'm just
it's okay.
fucking gone. Like I didn't want to do that to y'all. Like
But like as we've said, like this parasocial conversation, this topic, I think is something we're going to keep coming back to.
yeah,
We said some good shit about you if you feel like skimming through watching the replay.
we
But if
did. We did.
much love for Drench and for Josh, two separate entities.
Two
Follow them
separate
both.
entities.
Oh,
Oh,
Jeff, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody that's here. If you're watching on the replay and you got to this point, thank you for watching.
thank
If
you.
you want to like the video on the way out, that would be much appreciated. And don't
If you made
forget,
it this far, drop a bat emoji for Emily.
yes, bring on the bats, whatever. I can still hate them, but like the emoji. And yes, I did say I still hate them. But most importantly, I hope y'all take care of yourself and make sure to treat yourself better today than you did yesterday because y'all are worth it. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.